Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday evening, the 26th of April 2020. Just having a look at the global indices, starting off with the Dow, and just highlighting a couple of key things here to remember. That, of course, we do have a series of high lows and high highs, and we can see that price has been somewhat bullish off its testing of its lows, but technically it has broken all these previous lows. Sorry, what I mean to say is technically it has broken a previous low, and therefore this uptrend is now extinct, so to speak. And so it's really about waiting to see what price is going to do next. Again, also on that weekly time frame, we don't really have a sequence of lower highs and lower lows. We have a high, then a big low, and then so far lower high. And so there's no clear trend on the weekly as well. So really that leaves us with purely the daily to have a look at it. And on the daily, what we do have is an uptrend, solid uptrend of high lows and high highs, not very overextended. And so again, as with last week, although the daily is now showing that potential to trend to the upside and to continue up to the next key levels of potential resistance, there is no clearer trend on the higher time frame in order to provide any clarity. So it just means trading with more caution. That means that if we break the lows, we then go into a downtrend. If we break the highs, we obviously maintain the current daily uptrend. And so on the higher time frames, the weekly and the monthly, it's more or less waiting for a period of time now, which is going to be naturally several weeks at least on the weekly chart to get a sense ultimately of what the new trend is on the weekly. If we do start to head lower here, we've also got a bullish candle but with a red body this time. Break the low this week, that would indicate the market wants to head lower. And so again, I'll be looking at the low of this candle and the high of this candle to indicate, to imply what's happening. Effectively, there is no clear trend on either the weekly or the monthly. Why am I stuttering? I beg your pardon. Or on the weekly or the monthly, and therefore I'm waiting for clarity on that. So I'm prepared for both longs and shorts, but not trading it excessively bullishly or excessively bearishly. Looking at the S&P, similar function, really nice. I have to say, I think that the daily structure right now is relatively well behaved. Price breaking through levels of resistance, coming back to test it for support, continuing higher. The weekly candles looking nice and bullish. So the next level of resistance here is heading up towards 3,000, just past 2,900. And so if we do break higher, these are areas where I'll just be looking for potential resistance. If I am taking trades to the upside, I'll be looking to exit the trades and bank some profit ahead of those levels, just in case it finds the resistance very strong. At the same time, the monthly price action does still look really nice and bullish. We are now towards the end of the month, and actually that's a relatively decent recovery. You had something similar going back towards December in 2018 and 2019, and that was led obviously to a bigger move to the upside. So far this looking pretty good, and actually not super bearish. All right, so just highlighting the uptrend of the daily, bearish price action here, and this fork in the road on the weekly. Nasdaq, of course, being the most bullish of the bunch. We're not an industrial society anymore, we're more of a technological society, and so therefore Nasdaq being mostly technology, leading the way for the most part. Again, very, very strong recovery here. Last week's sort of hanging man, indecision candle, it's also an inside candle as well, not really offering too much clarity. Didn't break the high of the previous week, didn't break the low either, and actually continued upwards. So again, and this we've almost formed a swing low here on the monthly. So again, if we do break the high of last month's candle before the end of this month with this candle, that'll be quite nice and impressive. And then looking, so effectively what I'm looking for here will be long opportunities with some, obviously some caution on that. Should we break the trend, fail to break the previous highs in any way throughout the next few days, then I'll be prepared for moves to the downside, very much more in line with that weekly. Mini Russell 2000 actually looking very much as though it's setting up with higher lows into a flat level potential breakout to the upside. So again, that'll be quite interesting to see if that does happen. FTSE as well, actually forming some higher lows here as well into a flat level, potentially looking for a breakout to the upside there. Meanwhile, then going to the DAX looks the other way around. The DAX has actually got lower highs leading into what could potentially be a breakout to the downside, and actually Eurostoxx also has a similar structure. So these are on my watch list more for bearish potential breakouts. This one as well, Eurostoxx, looking at it here, looks very much as though there's a potential to break it to the upside. DAX looking more bearish. So some mixed signals there as well. The French CAC as well, not offering any clarity really at all. The weekly looking much more prepared to head to the downside. So there's a bit of disparity between the US indices and others around the world. And so that just implies there is a potential for an outcome that could go either way. You can see here the Australian ASX, much more bearish swing high and much more bearish candle last week. And also looking a little bit more of a rejection on that monthly of this previous level of support, finding some strong resistance towards 5,500. So my approach on a daily basis is really to be prepared for this to shift back into a downtrend, breaking previous lows, swing lows on the daily, and looking out for that to be the case. Last week I was prepared for something like that to happen, and subsequently the markets just carried on higher. Although they produced bearish signals, they just didn't follow through on it at all. And so that's fine, that's certainly the case, but key thing for me summing up here is that there is no clear trend yet on the weekly and monthly. Technically speaking, on the daily we have uptrends, so we're more bullish than bearish technically speaking, and so I'm going to be leaning towards that while with an eye towards fresh lows being created should the market take a sudden downturn. Of course, we've got FOMC on Wednesday, not necessarily expecting anything to come from that, but keeping your mind open just being extra cautious with regards to risk management. Have a fantastic week. I'll chat to you during the week.